Hello and welcome to Picture This Thought. Today's picture is this sign about sticking to the paths at a nature reserve. And the reason I picked it is because it made me reflect about my attitude towards people who kind of mess up the places that I'm trying to enjoy. I must admit, as a photographer, I find it quite hard when I've set up my tripod to take a lovely landscape, or I'm trying to photograph some ducks or wildlife or something, and then somebody lets their dog loose and it scares off all the wildlife and then starts trying to bite my tripod. And it got me thinking about the bigger question of what is it that's wrong with the world? Is it other people and their annoying habits and their inconsiderate behaviour? I think if we're honest, we could all be guilty of thinking if everyone was just like me, the world would be fine. We can all be very guilty of judging other people, either because we don't understand them or because they are being inconsiderate and horrible. But what about us? What are we like? There's a bit in the Bible which I really like because it's a great example of when Jesus uses hyperbole to make his point. And he gives this example about people who are judgmental. He says, do you know what it's like? You're trying to take a tiny speck out of somebody else's eye, and yet you've got a massive great plank in your own eye. You hypocrites, first take out the plank from your own eye and then you'll be able to see to remove the speck from your brother. In other words, stop judging other people for minor things and deal with your own heart, deal with your own issues. Do you know, there are all sorts of things wrong with the world, and if we're honest, there are all sorts of things wrong with each one of us. And there isn't really an awful lot that we can do about other people's attitudes and their behaviour. But actually what we do have control over is the way that we behave and the way that we act and the way that we respond. And we can make sure that that's gracious and loving and that we live a life that pleases the Lord. I remember reading that once in the Times newspaper they issued the question, what's wrong with the world, and invited readers to respond by writing in. And G.K. Chesterton wrote back and he simply said, I am. So maybe this is a challenge to all of us to take responsibility for our own thoughts and actions and words. So that's today's thought. Let me pray. Lord, I pray that you will help us to deal with the sin that's in our own heart, Lord. If we're honest, none of us can say that we're perfect. None of us can say that the world would be a better place if everybody was like us, because we're all selfish. We all deliberately do things to put ourselves first and to put other people second. And Lord, we're sorry for that. Holy Spirit, transform the way that we think and the way that we feel, the way that we act, so that we will better reflect your glory. In your name, amen. Well, that's today's Picture This Thought. Do join me again for more.